G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show, which I really hope you are, feel free to like, subscribe, give us a, 5-star rating, and you can share it around with your mates. And you can follow the show on Instagram at thedysregulated.podcast, or you can even follow me at elliot.t.waters. Okay, today's episode, I want to give a bit of insight into what my reality, and others like me, what my reality is like every single day. Now, if you're looking for a positive episode, uplifting episode, I'm telling you, this is not it. But if you want a first-hand account of what it is like living with mental illness every single day and every moment of every day, and even when you sleep, you're going to get a good insight here today, because I tell you what, I'm in one hell of a mood and I want to tell you all about it because, I tell you, the thoughts are just coming in thick and fast, and we'll see if we can put those thoughts into some sort of audio podcast episode that makes sense to people. So this is what happened. Today, I was at work. Now, that's a problem. No, it's not a problem in itself. Work is good. Work is good. We need money. And I tell you what, I've got none of it. Anyway, I'll do another episode on my financial problems another time. So I'm at work and I'm talking to a fellow team member, a fellow staff member, and for some reason, I always get onto the topic of mental health. I don't know. For the people that know me outside the podcast in the real world, you'll be chuckling and thinking, yes, Elliot, you're obsessed with it. And I guess that's the autism. And, mental health is everything to me. And that's why these conversations always seem to steer this way. But, partly I do it too because I know that there are a lot of people out there like me who are struggling and maybe just need a little prod, just a little, are you okay, just to get on top of things and, confront some things and make some changes. So that's why I like to sort of bring it up a lot, because I know a lot of people need to talk about it. Anyway, moving along. So we're talking about what my life is like. And he brought this up, not me, okay? And we were talking, or I was sort of saying, I can't understand what it's like. I can't comprehend what it's like being normal, because I said a bit about my reality every day, which I'm going to go into in a minute. And my friend could not understand how on earth I get up every day and push through the stuff that I do. And, it sort of made me think how used to this feeling that I'll describe in a minute, how used to it's becoming for me. It is the new normal. It is my normal is not normal, but I've become so used to being depressed and anxious and everything else that goes with it that that's just my baseline now. And, I don't even realize that maybe the way that I interpret the world and the way that I live and experience things isn't actually, normal. This isn't what a lot of other people feel this too, as I'm sure once I go into it. But there's a lot of people that can't, and this isn't the first time this has happened, but there's a lot of people that can't comprehend what it's like living like I do every single day. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a podcast episode about this and really give everybody some amazing insight. That is why I'm telling you, this podcast, the Dysregulated podcast, there is none better. There is none better on all of the internet. Joe Rogan, you've got nothing compared to me, all right, because the insight and the intimate details that we go into on this show, you can't get this anywhere else. And I'll tell you, this today, it's just like I'm opening my brain and just letting it all flow out. So without further ado, let me explain what it's like living like me every single day. And I'll tell you, to sum it up very quickly, it's not good. So again, if you're looking for a positive, uplifting episode, this is not it, because unfortunately, I've only really got bad news to report. So, all right, let's start. I'm just trying to think the best way to explain this, because this is just coming out. I haven't prepared for this episode at all. I'm just talking, as you might be able to tell. You're probably thinking, Elliot, get to the point. Come on, you're waffling. All right, so let's take anxiety as the first example. Generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety disorder, of which I have both. So my baseline is fight or flight mode. So, we talk about fight or flight and freeze, of course. Freeze is the third component, which is probably even more applicable to me. But the fight or flight mode, so you've got the adrenaline pumping because You look around and you see threats. Your amygdala, the part of the brain that interprets threats, is absolutely firing. It is pinging off its head, and everywhere you look, you see threats, or at least that's what I do. So, for example, at work, I talk to a lot of people, a lot of customers. Every single customer interaction I have, I walk to the customer feeling dread, anxiety, and fear, and panic as well. Every single interaction with customers I have. And I know that because I checked today. I was noting how I felt when I would walk up to customers. Hey, how you going? Do you need a hand? Every single one of them, and I know this happens every day, is negative. It's fear-provoking. Every single one. So, straight off the bat, I've got to overcome that. Okay, so that is social anxiety 101 right there. Because I'm walking up and I'm thinking, oh my God, these people are judging me. They're going to be thinking this, they're going to be thinking that. And then the generalized anxiety chips in and says, this could turn out to be a huge catastrophe. You better watch out. You better put your defenses up. So my defenses are up. Now, as I said, my baseline is already fight or flight, and then it peaks when I have these customer interactions, right? So it peaks. But it's not just customer interactions. I was driving home from work before and I was really looking at my thoughts and what I was thinking. And the whole time I'm thinking this car next to me, who was sitting in my blind spot, the fool, I kept thinking this guy at any moment is going to crash into me. It's going to happen. I just kept checking that mirror. I was like, oh my God, this guy, look at him. He's not concentrating. He's going to hit me. He's going to run me off the road. This happens every time I drive a motor vehicle. That is generalized anxiety 101 right there. So I want to make this point clear. My baseline is fight or flight, okay? I don't go into fight or flight mode. I don't have moments where I jump into fight or flight. Every waking moment, even my sleep too, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail too. That just reminded me, that's a good point. I should mention that. But every single moment, I am in fight or flight mode. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's just a little bit in fight or flight, a little bit. But it's constant. There's always that adrenaline flooding, and it is the most tiring, fatiguing thing in the world because there just is no break. I try and dial it down by meditating, but it just, I don't know. It's so ingrained that it's going to take, and I still haven't figured out the exact ways I'm going to do this, and I'll let you know, don't you worry when I do find out. But it is so ingrained, because I think back and, when I was in year 2 or something at school, I've said this story, I think, on the show before, but I was on the monkey bars and I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to live a life where I'm nervous all the time. And I was in year 2. And I'm thinking things like that. So this has been with me just about forever. I must just be wired differently. It's just the way it is. My amygdalas, which I'm going to do a great episode on the amygdala. It's my favorite part of the brain. It's also my most hated because my amygdalas must be dialed up so much that we are seeing threat and fear everywhere. And my baseline is fight or flight. Now, that's just the anxiety twin, social and generalized anxiety. But you got to remember with me, because I'm so complex, la-di-da, there's a lot more going on. There's the depression, the bipolar, the borderline, the ADHD, the Asperger's, autism. I'm sure I've forgotten some other ones as well. OCD as well. Yeah. How could I forget that? They're all playing their role. And if I looked at each of these things sort of separately and did like a baseline, had some data, I don't know how I would do this, do some skin conductance tests and see how much I'm sweating and check my heart rate, etc. I don't know. Anyway, if I did my baseline readings for all of these disorders, all of them are elevated all the time. Like, okay, let's look at depression. So I'm going into these conversations, right, with customers with fear and panic, but that's not all. I'm going into it and I'm depressed. So I'm like, these people are going to think they're better than me because, and then all of a sudden, I'm talking to this customer and I'm thinking that they're judging me negatively. And it's not just the judgments that I'm feeling. I start to buy into the negativity. So whatever the judgment is, I don't know, some bloke's more muscular than me or is better looking, which, there's no one better looking than me. Come on. I'm like Brad Pitt's doppelganger. Anyway, the point is, not only do we get the judgment and the anxiety because, oh no, they're judging us, then we go the next step, which is buying into the judgment and looking at that judgment and going, yes, that's true, Elliot. You should feel bad about that because you are inferior in some way. And then the depression starts. But that's only in those interactions. The depression seeps into everything. So, everything I do has this negative tinge to it. If I'm going to the beach, for some reason there's just this negativity. Now, it's interesting with the anxiety is pretty clear, right? So the examples I give of the anxiety are pretty clear, right? They're pretty clear cut. But the depression is more, often I really focus in on this depressive feeling and think, right, what is it we're actually depressed about? And I'll tell you what, often I can't come up with anything. So, we look at these situations objectively, like, me going to the beach. I'm like, why am I so depressed about going to the beach? Or, going to a football game and I'm walking in, I'm like, why am I here? This is going to suck, Like, why, what is it exactly that is causing this depressing feeling? So, like I said, the anxiety stuff's pretty clear. I can sort of say, yep, there's the context for it. There's the examples, although they're ridiculous, they're pretty tangible in a way. But the depression stuff I find with me at least, when I really, and I need to do this more, when I really focus in on the feeling and go, right, okay, let's look at this objectively. What is it that we're actually feeling and why? What's the example? What has come up in our world to cause this? With the depression stuff, often, not always, but often, I can't pinpoint it. It's just this negative fog that just hangs around, that just distorts everything, and everything's just negative. And when you really look at it, I don't even know why. But that is how I live every day. I go into certain situations and it's we're always so negative and mopey and depressed and, boo-hoo. But, that is my reality. This is what I was explaining to my friend at work who cannot understand how I live like this. That's why I got to do this episode, because I'm like, I know I'm not the only person going through this. There will be people listening right now who resonate with what I'm saying. What I'm saying resonates with them. And I'll tell you what, all I can say to you guys is hang in there, and I'm with you every step of the way. Please reach out if you need to, because, we're all in this together. But, God love him, but he couldn't understand. Like, we all have bad moments, you're saying, from time to time I have bad days, bad things happen, but he's like, but I get over it and then I just continue on and, things are good. And I was like, yeah, I don't know that feeling. I do not know that feeling. We don't just get over something and then everything's hunky-dory again. We finally cognitively restructure or wrestle with our thoughts and turn a negative into a positive. And then once we've done that and we've ticked that box and we've compartmentalized and, okay, that event was actually not too bad. That's, hey, we can feel good about that. We achieved something, say, we put that back on the shelf and then straight away we fall into this negativity again. So it's like my reality and those that feel like me, of which there are plenty, it's like our realities are just constantly distorted. It's like we've got these glasses on. One lens is the anxiety lens, the other lens is the depression lens, and we look out through this terrible mental illness pair of glasses, and everything is distorted. Everything has this negative tinge to it. Everything is a threat. And this is what I was explaining again to my friend. I said, this is me every day. Every day I'm in fight or flight mode constantly, and I'm constantly negative about everything. Gratitude's a big thing, and I really need to do it more because, if I'm trying to say some ways to sort of get around this, gratitude is a huge one for the depressing sort of negativity side of things. It is, because that's how you wrestle with these negative thoughts and turn them into a positive. You use gratitude. But you got to make it a habit, and that's something I need to work on. I'm going to do an episode all about gratitude and how to do journals and write it all out. That is coming, I promise. But gratitude is the big one to really hone in on that negativity. And I think for the anxiety sort of stuff, it's got to be mindfulness and meditation. So I think I mentioned before, there's a lot of thoughts going at the moment, so I'm trying to remember what I've actually said. I hope I'm not going around in circles. But the amygdala, my favorite parts of the brain, the two amygdalae, I think is the plural. Anyway, the amygdalas, they are so, when you're anxious and you're constantly in fight or flight, it's because they are dialed up and they're just seeing threats everywhere. This bloke walking down the street, oh, he's going to punch me, driving my car, this guy's going to hit me, or, I'm at the beach, oh my God, the wave's going to drown me, is there going to be a shark that's going to eat me, this is the amygdalas at play that are just dialed way too up and they're just seeing threats everywhere. Now, there's a lot of research that shows that mindfulness and meditation, or mindful meditation, if you want to combine the two, is a great way to turn these amygdalas down. I might even find, if I can, some of the fMRI imaging brain scans of people before and after who have done, I think it's 8 weeks of meditation, 30 minutes a day, the research was. I'm going to find this paper and these pictures and put it on Instagram because it's so cool, because it highlights how breathing exercises and being mindful and present in the moment and really consciously doing so actually changes the structures of the brain. And in this case, the amygdalas aren't as oxygenated as they were previously, which means they're not running so hot, they're dialed down, and that means you can dial down too. And I must admit, I have not been good. And I blame my ADHD, but really I shouldn't, because, I need to get organised and get this into a routine. But I have not committed to mindfulness and meditation as much as I should. You've probably seen me put on Instagram at times, my drawings and colouring in stuff. I do that sometimes, but I need to do it more. Anyway, moving on. That's all another episode that's coming. But back to the main point, which is, it's like, I'm walking in a headwind that just doesn't go away. It doesn't matter what direction I'm facing. It's just blowing straight in my face constantly, and you just can't get away from it. And that's what it's like. That is what my reality is like every day. Every day I have to stand up and fight these negative thoughts, the anxieties. I need to try and use logic and be objective and wrestle with these thoughts and cognitively restructure and, CBT it and DBT it and everything, all of that sort of stuff. Every day I am fighting to stay on parity with life, because if I don't, we just sink a long, long way. And, sometimes we sink and we need someone to help us get us out, and we cannot do that to people. So we need to figure out a way to, stay on top ourselves. But that's the thing. Every day is like this. And this is such a depressing episode. And I'm so sorry, everybody. And I tell you, this isn't a cry for help. Don't worry. It's not. Look, it has taken years of therapy, over 24, 25 medications, so many long drives on my own, looking at the moon late at night, thinking about my thoughts and my cognitions to get to this point. But I'm going to say it out loud. I am one strong, resilient person. I am tough as nails. I am. And I'll tell you, it is a big moment that I'm actually saying this out loud. This is a big moment. I'm so glad I could share it with you all. But I was thinking about this at work after I spoke to my friend, and it sort of finally dawned on me. I was like, you know what, mate? You are made of the right stuff, because every day is a battle, and every day you get up and keep going. And I don't know, I'll give myself credit. That's pretty cool. Good on you, Elliot. Pat on the back. It's really good stuff. But it's really, really hard. And that's the thing, When I was in year, I can't remember if I told this. Okay, a bit of insight into this podcast. I know I'm rambling, geez, I'm sorry. But, a bit of insight. Whenever I do an episode, like I literally do like 10, 15 takes, because I just cannot stand the sound of my voice when I play it back. And I think I, jumble over words, don't get my point across, delete. Literally I don't know if this, for example, if this version is going to go out. If you can hear this, well then obviously I've deemed this to be good enough. But we've just clicked over 18 minutes. Just before this one, I just did 18 minutes earlier, and I stumbled one little bit and I deleted it. So there's the negativity and the anxiety, it's social anxiety. They're going to judge me because, I jumbled over words. There's another example of it. Just doing this podcast is so difficult. It is so difficult. It takes me hours and hours just to get an episode out because of this negative thinking that I have. It is so frustrating. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so for people like me, and that's the thing, I want to make this point again. Oh, that's right. Sorry, year 2. Jeez. Yeah, so in year two, and I've probably said this story on previous episodes, right at the start. But in year 2, I'm a young kid, I was on the monkey bars when this happened. I remember it as clear as day, as it was yesterday. I was on the monkey bars, which should have been enjoyable and fun. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I want to live a life where I'm not nervous all the time. Now, to be thinking things like that in year 2, that's bad. And the thing is, I've been thinking that ever since. Every day I think I just want to live a life where I'm not anxious and so negative all the time and don't have to battle 24/7 with this negativity, these cognitions that just won't let go. And it's been going on since year 2. So, the other thing that I want to say is although we get up and we fight every day, this is tiring. And, it's physical as well. It's not just mental. This is physical too, Like I look in the mirror and, at the moment I got bags under my eyes and, my eyes are red because I'm not sleeping properly because that's the thing, see. This is how bad it has got. When I sleep, right, I sweat heaps because I have panic attacks in my dreams. I have dreams of me dying or people close to me dying, or people, breaching my trust or whatever. And I wake up almost nightly at the moment, covered in sweat, just covered, because I'm having panic attacks in my sleep. And again, this isn't just me. There's a lot of people out there that are going through this and he's terrible. And I want to make the point that this isn't just mental. This is physical as well. It takes a physical toll. It really, really does. It is all encompassing when you get to this point. So, I want to give myself credit. Like I said, pat on the back stuff. The fact that I keep pushing it is heroic. I don't care what anyone says because I need to be very positive. We are the hero of this story and it's a miracle that we're keeping going. But I tell you what, this isn't a cry for help because we are dialed in, baby. We are in the fight big time. We're bloodied and bruised, but we are punching. All right, the Rocky movies. Surely everyone knows the Rocky movies, Sylvester Stallone. If you haven't seen the Rocky movies, do yourself a favor and watch them. It'll change your life. It's certainly changed mine. Now, for those that have seen the Rocky movies, and if you haven't, go on YouTube and find this particular part. It's in the first movie, right? The first movie against Apollo Creed, and it's the 14th round, right? Rocky and Apollo, they're bloodied and bruised. Now, this is a metaphor for life, okay? I hope I can explain this well because it's such a significant moment in the film that has done so much for my life, and it says so much. So Apollo Creed, right, is hammering in a Rocky. Now, Apollo Creed is life, the suffering of life. And Rocky is us, the hero of the story. So life and our hero of the story are constantly at battle because, it doesn't matter whether you got mental illness or not. Life is difficult. Life is hard. There is no two ways about that. Nobody gets off scot-free. So anyway, back to the movie. So Rocky's, he's taken a pummeling, We are taking a pummeling from life. Then all of a sudden, boom, Apollo Creed gets a good shot straight on the chin, boom, and Rocky goes down. So life has just dealt us a huge blow, and we are on the canvas. And Mickey, our trainer, is just saying, stay down, you've copped so much, just do yourself a favor, just stay down, right? But Rocky is like, nah, not having a bar of that. Now, right, while Rocky's on the ground, right, Apollo Creed's got his arms in the air and he's thinking, this is life, remember, who's just dealt us this big blow, it could be anything. Apollo Creed's got his arms in the air. Life is saying, yep, we've beaten this bloke. We've beaten him. He's done. He's out for the count. And then Rocky gets up. He's bloodied. He's bruised. He's just, it's so amazing. You've got to watch it. Rocky gets up and life turns around. He's like, you're joking, eh, Apollo Creed? What is this guy doing back up? What do I have to do to keep him down? And Rocky looks at him, stands up, looks at him in the eyes and says, come on, and motions to him to bring it on. Bring it on, life. Let's go. Let's dance, baby. Then Apollo Creed, or life, is like, right, we've got to get this guy. We're going to absolutely belt him. And then Rocky ducks the punch and then bang, bang, bang. 3 shots to the ribs, 3 shots back to life and breaks Apollo Creed's ribs, funnily enough. And that is our hero. That is us standing up to life saying, bring it, baby. Let's go. Let's dance. Boom, boom, boom. And then Rocky hits Apollo Creed and then the bell goes and our hero is still fighting. And if you've seen the movie, you would know that Rocky goes the distance. That is us going the distance with life because it is a dance. And there are parts of life that want to keep us down, and that's Apollo Creed. But Rocky showed that you just got to keep fighting and you can go the distance. And it's just, it just gets me going. Can you tell? The tiger, it's great. Tell you what, I've been doing some rambling in this episode. Yeah, so the two examples that I've used, or I guess sort of three, is generalized anxiety, social anxiety, and depression. Now, for people who are extremely complex like myself, there's more to the story than just that. So my glasses that I wear, these are multi-lens, quad bifold, I don't even know if that's the thing, there's all these different lenses because there's more to my story, unfortunately, than just those three. There's ADHD doing its thing. There's BPD, borderline personality disorder. There's bipolar. There's, what else have I got? OCD. I don't know. What else is there? I feel like Asperger's, high functioning autism. How could I forget my latest diagnoses? And the thing is, if I look at all these disorders and look at my baseline, all of them, it's elevated. All of them. Because I just cannot, at the moment, unfortunately, my reality, as I look out of my eyes and stuff, it is tainted with these disorders, And again, to give myself credit, we just push through, push them aside as best as we can, and we still push forward. Some days are a lot harder than others. Today's been a difficult day. I don't know if you can tell, but, there's a lot of thoughts going. There's a lot I want to try and get out. I have no idea if this episode's even going to make it or if it even makes sense. And if it doesn't make sense, I apologize. But I really want to give you guys this insight into what it is like. Because, I don't want to overstate it, but some days it is hell. It is our version of hell. And all I can say to the people who are listening to this and they're thinking, yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate. That's what I feel like. Look, I'm giving you a hug through the microphone because, look, this battle is so hard, but I am with you all the way. We've got to do this together because, these disorders or life, life events, you don't have to have mental illnesses for life to get you down. That's for sure. Life is hard for everybody. Nobody gets off scot-free, and it is so important that we try and get through this together because there's strength in numbers, and if we can lean on each other and share our burdens and take on the responsibility to look after each other, then, for people that like me that are going through this every single day, it gives us a bit of hope and it gives us a bit of relief and maybe a bit of a break from the constant negativity that just does not go away. And that is what I tried to tell my friend at work because he could not understand. And it shocked me because, as I said, I don't know if maybe this was one of the previous drafts that I said this. I don't remember. But, this is my normal. It's not normal, but it's my normal. And I don't understand. I can't really imagine living any other way. I'm just always anxious. I'm always depressed and negative. I'm always unable to focus and have this energy but can't focus anywhere and, never finish anything. That's just always happens. Everyone knows it, I'm late to everything because I'm disorganized because I'm going to blame the ADHD, but, I should be better. But anyway, let's keep going. Every day is up and down because of the borderline personality, hour by hour, even shorter sort of things, my mood changes. It's swiftly changes from negative to more positive, then back to negative before you know it. And I could go on and on and on, but, this is what it's like for me every single day. And as I said, my friend, he just could not understand. He could not understand how it is that I live like this. And then I thought to myself, okay, some people don't live like this. That's really interesting. I should put that on the podcast for the people that, maybe don't understand, and God love you. I'm, full strength to you. And I really hope and pray that you never have to feel, this 24/7 negativity that people like I feel. But I thought, wow, he just couldn't comprehend what it's like to live like I do. And yet at the same time, I couldn't comprehend that people don't also just feel the way that I do. So that's why I thought I need to do an episode and get this out there because I think this is really insightful and people might get a bit from it. For the ones that don't quite understand what it's like to live like this, but really want to support those that do, I hope this episode really is enlightening. I do. And for those that are going through similar things to me and can resonate with my story and, they're thinking, yep, that's me. That's what my life is like. As I said, I'm giving you a virtual hug and reach out to me on Instagram if you want, because we're all in this together. And, like I said, if we can all sort of lean on each other and help carry each other's burden and take on that responsibility to look after each other, then this journey, which is life, can be enjoyed, and we can be successful and really achieve what we need to achieve. And that's the thing. Not only did this friend, we were talking about, what it's like for me to live like this. Not only were we just talking about it, he offered support, and he was telling me, he's there for me, and he took on the responsibility in that moment and helped carry my burden in that moment. And for a little bit there, I had some relief and I had some peace because I was able to offload a bit of it to my friend. Not too much, because you don't want to bury people, alongside you. That's not what we're going for. But I was able to offload just enough so I could have a little bit of a reprieve from this constant war that I'm waging, because it is so, so difficult. Every day we wrestle with these thoughts. It's like, come on, we've got to turn it into a positive. Come on. And it is so difficult. Some days we do it pretty well, not every day is as bad as, not every day is just a complete write-off, but every day we've got to fight. That's for sure. And some days, it feels like we're losing the fight, but then, just like Rocky, we get up and say, you know what? Nah. Let's dance, baby. Bring it on. All right. I hope that episode sort of makes sense. I know I was rambling a bit, but, this is a insight, first-hand experience of what it's like living like this, Like, obviously, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm in a bit of a mood. Today's been a bit of one of those days, and, it's been quite, in some ways, emotional after I was speaking to my friend about these sorts of issues, and, I had to, in the moment, sort of confront them and sort of figure out what was going on. So it's been a big day. Anyway, I'm rambling too much. But, yeah, I really hope that this offers some insight. And it is literally, I've got no notes here in front of me. Yeah, I've done a few different takes, I sort of know what I want to talk about. But I'm just talking, like you guys are my friends, which you are. And, this is just me being fair income and just being genuine and honest and yeah, this is how, people like me, it's not just me, there's so many other people out there struggling. And please remember that when you're, interacting with people, you don't know the battle. Oh, it's another episode, but you don't know the battles that people are waging. But there are so many other people that are going through extremely similar circumstances to me. I've met people, I've spoken to people. People have reached out through the podcast, and I encourage that. Please, please reach out. I love it. I am a bit slow with replying to messages because, again, I get overwhelmed. See, I get this sort of anxiety. Oh, no, people are trying to reach out. And I'm thinking negative. It happens, on Instagram as well. It's not just real life interactions. It's Instagram as well, just replying to people messages. I get that overwhelming feeling of dread and anxiety and just overall negativity. Sometimes it is hell. So when I do reply to you, please appreciate that I do, because a lot goes into it, let me tell you. Like I was saying, I've got no notes here. I haven't written anything down. I've just come home from work and decided, right, I've got a story to tell and I'm just going to tell it. So, if this episode's a little bit more disjointed than the others, well, that's why, because I'm just literally, unzipping my head and grabbing my thoughts from my brain, and I'm just blurting them out right now. And I do want to say, if there is a podcast that goes deeper, that is more insightful than this one, I tell you, let me know, because I cannot think of any show that is as real and genuine and as fair income as this one. So, hopefully I can offer, again, I've said this word a lot, hopefully I've offered some insights, and been able to use my experiences for good. And I really hope that if you're listening, that you are not going through the sorts of battles that I've just outlined. But if you are someone that is, look, I'm with you. I'm with you every step of the way. Trust me on that one. And reach out to me if you want. Get me on Instagram, elliot.t.waters. Happy to have a chat. Just that might be a few business days before I reply. Anyway, all right, that's enough. I am exhausted. I'm ready for a sleep because I was just killing it at work today. You should have seen me. I was just smashing it. Like, I don't know. I deserve a raise or something, like fair income. But anyway, enough of that. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I do appreciate it. And, I'll see you soon on the show. Coming up next, I think, will be the next DBT skill. So get keen for that one. I'm very excited because that is going to be, they're the positive episodes. I know this one was a bit negative, but, I'm hoping that, it might be enlightening for some people and maybe comforting for others as well. Anyway, that's enough from me. Thank you for listening. I do appreciate it. And reach out if you'd like at the dysregulated.podcast or at elliot.t.waters on Instagram. Thank you, everybody, and talk to you soon. Goodbye.